Graduating from high school and moving on to college was the biggest transition I have ever experienced in my life. A lot of new doors opened for me, but a lot of other doors closed as well. Moving on with my life after high school was easier for me because of COVID. I had already been trapped in the house for so long, so I was ready to move out into a new environment. There were some other factors that may have made the adjustment significantly easier for me than others, but just because it was easier does not mean it wasn't an adjustment. I tend to be a more flexible person, living life as it comes to me. However, college throws life into your face so hard that it's difficult for even a flexible person such as myself to cope. There are a lot of new changes that college brings to the table, including the diversity of culture, new academic pacing, and a new lifestyle. There's one change that I feel is the most prevalent in people as they get settled in their new college life, and that one change is becoming independent. Parents and students alike struggle with this. How do you cope with independence? How do you adult? Adulting is a term synonymous with the phrase taking responsibility. I was already a, relatively speaking, fairly independent person before moving on to college, but once I actually moved into my dorm and began my college life about a month ago, I quickly realized that adulting had a whole new meaning. I had my own money that I had a budget to accommodate for my meal plan only covering 2/3 of my meals each week. I had my own living space that I had to keep relatively clean so as to not piss off my roommate. I had my own time to spend without anyone specifically dictating how I spent it, and I had to actually go out of my way to interact and meet new people. All of this responsibility suddenly fell on top of me. My main mode of transportation was a bike, but my whole schedule was thrown off when the rear tube in my bike went flat. I had to search around for the right size tube, walk to a bike shop, and replace it. Let's just say I learned more about bikes on that day than I had any other day. Even so, with all of this new responsibility, there were also a lot of new freedoms. I loved, and still do love, every single minute of it. I had the time to start up YouTube again. I felt productive in my life for once. I could go anywhere I wanted to do anything at any time of the day, and I could stay up as late as I wanted with my friends. I've come to embrace my independence, and I've learned to somewhat be an adult. If it wasn't for the 27-year-old NEET named Arta Kaizaki, I wouldn't have been able to adapt so quickly. I discovered ReLIFE within my first week of the summer semester. It was an extremely lucky find. I found a new cast of characters for me to emotionally invest myself in with a captivating plot and a fantastic soundtrack to accompany it. But what really made ReLIFE stick out to me was how well Arta's situation pertained to me. Before starting college, I had realized that education was my life. In 4 years, I was going to be out of college, but then what? The time after college seemed so mysterious to me. There were so many possibilities of what kind of a life I could lead. I also realized that I would start working and wouldn't stop working until I retired. Therefore, my thought process was that my first job should be one that I enjoyed a lot, otherwise I'd be stuck living a life revolved around shallow or static career aspirations. Arta quit his job due to the bureaucratic hierarchy and corrupt leadership behind the company. Just like with me, he was thrown into complete independence suddenly, though his was due to his mother cutting off his funding despite him being unemployed. He struggled to find a new job because he quit his first job after only 3 months, so fears of the rest of his life becoming a mess began to culminate within him. Those fears were culminated in me as well, although to a lesser degree, as I was worrying more about 4 years into the future, whereas Arata was worrying about his immediate future. Ryo gives Arata a chance at redemption in his life, the ReLIFE experiment. He offers Arata a pill that would make him appear as a high schooler so he can attend high school for 1 year with all of his living expenses paid for and a possible job opportunity lined up at the end. The experiment is meant to rehabilitate shut-ins and needs by giving them a reason to interact with others and a structure meant to emphasize the new responsibilities being an adult requires. Arta starts out with a plan to stay on the sidelines and not bother with any of the students just so he can take advantage of the coverage of his living expenses and the job opportunity. Eventually, though, he finds himself surrounded by people that he is all influenced, and still wants to influence for the better, so that they don't make the same mistakes he has. Arta is also constantly under the impression that everyone at his previous job is just as corrupt as the leaders, and that his legacy would be remembered as idiotic rather than courageous. In episode 11, however, this impression of his is completely flipped on its head when 2 of the new employees comment on how much Arta's actions influenced them. It makes Arta look on his past with a more positive light, which also enables him to move on and look into the future with hope. Through ReLIFE, the mysteries of college and beyond became significantly less mysterious. Looking back on my life and all of my experiences, there may be some lessons I've learned that I can at least loosely apply to any situation that may hit me in the future. I learned to look at my mysterious future with hope rather than worry. The main lesson ReLIFE taught me was that adulting isn't just about shouldering the burden of your responsibility. It's not just about accepting that you are now independent and dealing with it. There's far more to it than that. True adulting is when you take care of your responsibilities using your past experiences, embrace your new responsibilities as new values in life, and accept the new freedoms granted with those responsibilities as a positive influence. Adulting this way allows you to lose some of the stress and all of the unknowns of the future in college and afterward. Graduating from high school made me lose a lot of structure in my life, but now instead of being stuck on the thoughts of, I wish I was in high school, thanks to ReLIFE's biggest lesson, I can move on with my life and the new opportunities at the doorstep.